Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of the Storytime Society. I'm your host Jamie, and I'm so happy you're here. I'm so glad you're alive. Thank you for tuning in. The theme of this episode is cheating stories with updates. Okay, let's get into it. The title of the first story is I, 37 male, found out my girlfriend, 25 female, cheated on me with my son, 20 male, and I want to cut them both off, but they're begging me to forgive them. Obligatory, not my main, throwaway in case anyone I know sees my details. I was a young dad. Me and my now late wife had my son before we were even 17. She sadly died suddenly at 22, not long after we got married, and I've been a single dad since. It's been tough, but I think up until this, I did my best. I haven't had time to have any relationships really up until I met her. I threw myself into being a dad and concentrating on my business. I'm not saying I've been a monk, just not had anything serious. Never anyone serious enough to introduce my son to. But just under 3 years ago, I met AJ. I wasn't expecting it, but before long, I was head over heels. The first 6 months or so was more casual, but when we realized we loved each other, we made it official. I was even planning to ask her to marry me next month on her 26th birthday. I was even going to ask my son to be my best man. I didn't introduce them at first due to not being sure how he would take it, so we waited a while. But after they met last year, we've all hung out and everything was all good. Granted, this year they haven't seen each other much due to lockdown and him being at uni, but I didn't think anything of that. I couldn't see her much this last month due to lockdown again. However, I've noticed as the past couple of weeks have gone, she's been a bit moody and quiet. I've asked her and she said it's due to being overwhelmed. Likewise, I have noticed it in my son being a bit withdrawn, but I assumed he's just busy with uni. When I finally saw her again this weekend, I really noticed, so I called her out on it. She broke down and admitted she cheated on me, just like that. I was so shocked. So I was trying to get it out of her, and she admitted that it was with my son. Just before lockdown started in November, she was out with her mates, and she bumped into my son in the pub. They got pissed drunk, shared a taxi, and ended up drunken, sleeping together. I basically threw her out there and then, saying I never wanted to see her again. She was begging me, pleading, and making a scene and everything. I then asked my son to come over, and I confronted him. He admitted that it's true. It's a huge mistake and is begging me to forgive him. I've told him he needs to stay at someone else's house and don't want to look at him anymore. He's at my mom's. I haven't told her what he did, but she knows it's serious, seeing as how close we have always been. She's been ringing me, sending me emails, texting me, begging for another chance, and so has my son. I've packed up her stuff that she left here and left it in her front garden in a bin bag. I've even chucked her Christmas presents I've got her too. Let her enjoy them early. I'm absolutely distraught. They're the two people I loved most in the world. I wanted to marry her, maybe even have kids, spend my life with her. Likewise, he was more than my son. He was my best friend. I sacrificed so much for him to give him an amazing life, and they've both stabbed me in the back in the worst way possible. I don't think I'll ever forgive them, ever again. They're welcome to each other as far as I'm concerned. I feel so hurt. Edit, I forgot to add, I've got myself booked in at the clap clinic. If I can't trust her to not cheat on me once, who knows how many times she's done it. Is there any more to do here? Or is that the best course of action? Cut them off and move on. Edit, for everyone saying next time, there's going to be no next time. I'm done with women, love, relationships, everything. God, I miss my wife tonight. She should have been the one and only woman for me. They'll never make them like her again. Okay. I mean, that's just crazy. But what's really crazy is the fact that he's dating someone that's like his son's age. I mean, he's 37, she's 25, and his son is 20. I don't think that it's right, obviously. I never think cheating is right. I don't think that cheating is right, ever. But, I don't know. 37 and 25. I'm sure it could work out, but I just feel weird about age gaps like that. Like, not age gaps like if she was 37 and he was 49 or whatever, that would be different for me. But it's being in your early mid-20s that kind of throws me off when you're a 37-year-old man. You're almost 40 years old and you're dating someone that's closer to your son's age than yours. I'm not trying to turn it on him because obviously what she did and what his son did was wrong. And that really doesn't have anything to do with how old she is, but I don't know. Storytime Society is now available on all listening platforms. If you are on any of those listening platforms, I would really appreciate it if you rated me 5 stars. Thanks for all the support. Oh, it says here, the comments were divided. Some people were supporting OP, others calling him naive for dating someone almost the same age as his son, but also some good comments with advice on how to proceed. The majority seemed to believe that his relationship was doomed and he definitely needed to seek therapy for him and his son. I definitely think that he should probably never go after someone that young again, to be honest, especially for, and it's not his fault. Again, I'm trying to reiterate, it's not his fault that she cheated on him. It's never the other person's fault that they cheated. But I am just thinking, like, after all you've been through, losing your wife, having a son really young, like, you are not only 37, but you also have had a lot more life experience. So it's like, I think you just need someone more on your level and also your age. Okay, but there's an update 4 days later. I wasn't planning to originally do an update because of so many abusive comments and texts received last time, but on the other hand, I had so much support. I thought I would update those who have been supportive. So, I basically met up with AJ, my ex. I asked her the truth, what went on, and was there anything else going on previously? She was really passionately saying no. It literally was a case of her having a drink with her mates, and my son was in the pub, and they got drunk together. When they were sharing a taxi, he admitted that he liked her, made a pass, and that was it. She was saying things like she'd never do it normally, but because she hadn't seen me for a little while and he reminded her of me so much that night, it just happened. I told her to stop blaming the booze or anyone else, and she needs to own it, no one else. I also was honest with her that she's the first person I've let in and loved since my ex-wife died, and I've been happier with her in the past 3 years than I was for years before that. I told her I was even going to propose to her. She broke down, telling me again how sorry she is and asking me for another chance and that she'll never forgive herself. I told her that she needs to one day so that she can learn from this, but that's it for us. I'm blocking her number, email, and I don't want any contact again, and I left. I feel much better for meeting her. As devastated as I am, I do feel like that's a bit of closure. Simply to see that I don't really hate her, but I actually pity her. Though not being able to control her alcohol or keep it in her pants, it's cost her a relationship with someone she cares about and likely will affect her relationships for years to come. Not that I don't think she's any less responsible or deserves the outcome like. It also helped me to truly realize how immature she is. Before this, I was blissfully ignorant because I was so happy. Now, it's made me really conscious of it. Never again. Now, my son. I realized the other day when I made my post, I was very angry and the way I was typing it seemed like it was going to flat out disown him. But let me stress, he's my son, my flesh and blood, and I love him dearly. He's also my wife's son, and I could never just get rid of him for her. But he has let me down and really hurt me massively, and I have lost not just all respect, but trust in him. So I met him also, and I heard his side of the story. It was largely the same as hers, but the difference was he said she was being really flirty with him, and she said he really reminded her of me, and that's when he told her he had a crush and made his move. I told him what I wrote out above, that I love him, but have no respect for him, and I can't trust him anymore. I told him also about my plans, that I was going to propose to her and even have him as my best man. He was gutted, just really silent, and started crying. I told him we need to have no contact for a while. He needs to get a job and not work with me at weekends like he does at the moment, and we need to talk to my folks to see if he can stay with them for a bit. But in order to do so, I want him to be a grown-up and tell them why to their face and deal with it as a grown-up. So I drove him there and made him tell them. They were devastated, not just upset, but the look in my mom's eye, I'll never get over that. She told him how disappointed she was in him, and that she never thought he'd do something like this. I asked her if he can stay there for this foreseeable future, but not for free. He has to pay his own way. Proper board, contribute towards the bills, buy his own food, and she agreed out of respect for me. I also sat him down and showed him that I'd transfer over a large amount of money and explained that that was the money I was saving for AJ's engagement ring. But seeing as what's happened, I want him to have that as a reminder and to use it to pay his grandparents' rent, if nothing else. He was absolutely stunned at that, trying to give it back to me. I told him if he does that, we definitely are done. We've agreed on no contact at least until Christmas, and then we all, me, him, and my folks, could spend Christmas together. I've been largely reflecting the past few days, mainly on me and why I went for AJ in the first place. I was extremely flattered when she asked me out, even though I never normally consider anyone that young. But in hindsight, she was the same age as my wife when she died. Same ethnicity, mixed race, and also even did the same sort of job. So I guess I went for it because she was like my late wife, which honestly makes me really sad. I know I can't blame anyone else for that, but it makes me realize also that she, AJ, was only my second ever serious relationship in my life. Like, imagine that. A 37-year-old guy having that little relationships that a girl 5 years older than my son is a huge chunk of my relationship experience. It also makes me miss my wife massively. I've been just having a bit of me time the past few days, having an Alan Partridge marathon. That was mine and my wife's favorite thing to watch together. It helps me feel close to her when I'm down. Edited to add, I'm seeing if I can get in touch with my old therapist I was seeing after my wife died and making an appointment with him. I might see if he can take my son on too. Edit, a few people have pointed out we might not be able to see the same therapist due to a conflict of interest. I didn't think of that, so maybe I'll get a recommendation off him for someone else suitable. Thank you. I definitely need to work on myself before I ever date again. I think I have too many issues to be a good partner at the moment, and if and when I do, I'm not dating anyone her age again. I think I'll do strictly 80s policy of only going for people born in the 80s and definitely no one born after 1989. Thank you and apologies for the wall of text.
If you want extra content weekly, head over to patreon.com/storytimesociety and become a member on there for extra content. Love you.
Yeah, that's probably the best case scenario for you. But definitely what he was like saying throughout all of that, all I was thinking the whole time is like, dude, you just need to go to therapy and you need to work on the grief and the loss of your wife, even though that's something that you're never going to get over and you're always going to feel that grief. It's probably not healthy to be looking for someone that is so similar to your ex-wife to like almost try to replace her, which I can understand why you would do that, and I can understand the appeal of like dating someone that reminds you of them, because obviously you want so badly to have them in your life again. So then your brain just thinks like, oh, let me, this person's so similar to her in so many ways, so I'll go after her. But at the end of the day, that's definitely not healthy. I can't imagine how hard that would be, obviously, because I've never dealt with that specific situation, losing your partner, especially someone that it's like the love of your life and you have a child with that young. I'm sure that would fuck you up in ways that I can't even like comprehend. So I do feel for him, and I can understand why he would be a little bit naive in that situation. And I'm sure it would stunt like a lot of emotional growth having to deal with something so young. Not only like having a kid, but also having your wife die and then really having to like step up to be a single dad could potentially be very damaging to your emotions, your psyche. The top comment says, you remind me of your dad. Wanna bang? I'm sobbing. What the F, bro? I thought I was messy in my 20s. Holy shit, LMAO. I know, that's wild to say that. Like, ew, that's disgusting. I can't even imagine. That's like so... You remind me of your dad, so let's sleep together. Like, what? Someone responded and said, yeah, for real. I've made some not so great choices, including in the realm of dating, but I never have done anything nearly as fucked up. So now I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Comparison is a thief of joy until it's Schadenfreude. Schadenfreude? Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, but I know what they're talking about. Schadenfreude. That's how you pronounce it. Schadenfreude. Is that like derived from whatever his name is? Sigmund Freud? The guy that like did all that shit with psychology and stuff. I don't know. I took AP Psych and I never took the fucking exam because God knows I wouldn't have passed it. I learned so much about Sigmund Freud, and I don't know, that just sounds like something that would be coming from him. Okay, the title of the next story is My 27 male fiancé, 29 female, was accused by her maid of honor, 29 female, of stepping out on me. My fiancé claims she's trying to sabotage our relationship. I'm lost and questioning everything. How do I move forward? This original post is from May 30, 2025, so only about 2 weeks ago. My 27 male relationship with my fiancé, 29 female, has kind of blown up. I never felt this unsure in our relationship. I'm in need of outside perspectives. For context, we're college sweethearts. For orientation, I was touring on campus and she was my group's tour guide. That's how we met. She's my first love and my best friend. Now we're in the height of wedding planning. About a couple of years ago, we had a rough patch with her shutting down and pushing me away. She wanted to take a break so she could find herself again. I don't believe in breaks. I wanted to work through it together, but her mind was made. So I agreed. We established boundaries for the break. We wouldn't see other people, and we were to have checkups about where we were emotionally. The goal was to reinforce our foundation. The break was only a month. We bounced back stronger, but it's still a sore spot. The break was the most distant we've ever been, and the experience highlighted why I'm against it. Recently, my fiance had a bad falling out with a mutual friend / maid of honor, 29 female, who I'll call Joss for clarity. Some nasty stuff was said, and Joss accused my fiance of being a bridezilla and an even worse friend. I hoped the rift between them would mend because they were close for a really long time. They were like sisters, but my fiance kicked Joss out of her wedding and uninvited her. The damage seemed to be done for both. The other day, Joss reached out to me and said that my fiancé wasn't being completely truthful. She revealed not only did my fiancé see other guys during the break, but also hooked up with someone on their annual girls' trip. She gave the guy's name, but I don't know who he is. On the trip, my fiancé's group linked up with another they clicked with. Josh said it was clear the guy had an eye for my fiancé, and eventually she and he began wandering off. My fiancé ignored Joss's attempts at talking her down. It was a lot to take in. My initial instinct was to shut Joss down. Up until this point, I trusted my fiancé fully, but I couldn't overlook how much Joss's account matched my doubts from back then. Like I said, we were the most distant during our break. It wasn't on my part. There were times she was AWOL on our checkups. During the girls' trip that fell on our break, she went radio silent in a way she wasn't on previous trips. There was truth to linking up with another group because my fiancé told me about it. She's still casually in touch with some of them. Right after the trip, she was gung-ho on calling the break off, how it was a mistake and that she was in a better headspace. Joss claimed that this was part of their falling out. She was pushing my fiancé to come clean with me before the wedding. She felt I deserved to know and wished that she would have said something sooner. I didn't say much. I was too numb to really feel anything. I initially didn't confront my fiancé. I was trying to process. But she could tell something was wrong and kept on asking. When I did confront her, she was a whirlwind of emotions. She mostly ranted about Joss, but I told her this was her chance to tell her own story. She asked if I'd hear her out. I promised I would. She confessed to seeing other guys during the break, but claims that nothing happened. She also denies ever hooking up with anyone on the trip. I asked her why Joss would tell the truth about her seeing other guys, which alone thoroughly broke our boundaries, but make up an elaborate lie about her cheating on the trip. She insists Joss is trying to sabotage our relationship. She said the other guys meant nothing and I'm the one she was in love with. It was like she wanted me to be grateful for choosing me. She promised to do anything to regain my trust. She said we're starting our lives together, and I shouldn't let Joss come between us. I wasn't very receptive to her. We fought, and I told her that I needed to think. Ever since, she's been pouring on so much affection. She still swears she never hooked up with anyone on the girls' trip, and that Joss is trying to sabotage. But I can't shake the possibility that Joss is telling the truth. All of this is blown up while we're in the middle of wedding planning. Invites already delivered, venue booked, catering being arranged, suits, dresses, everything. I feel so numb. I'm in love with my fiancé. She's my best friend. It feels wrong to doubt her, but I'm questioning everything, even myself. I don't know what to believe anymore. I feel like an idiot. How do I move forward for myself and my relationship? I'm with him on the break thing. I don't believe in breaks. I think that if you feel like you need a break, honestly, like just break up. because there's no point there. It always ends up with people, one of them wanting to like go explore other relationships. And if that's the case, you should either break up or be upfront with your partner and what the intentions are with that break, because it seems like that was this girl's intention. Like she wanted to explore other connections and see what was out there. And that would have been fine if they wouldn't have made these boundaries on what their break was going to be. Like, that would have been fine if she would have been straight up and been like, hey, I want to go on a break. But obviously, I don't think he would have agreed with that. And then it's like, at that point, you guys would break up or you would stay together and you wouldn't be able to, like, but I don't think that it's like, I don't know. I think that if you're really questioning things that much and you really want to, like, go explore other people, then yeah, like I said, you either talk to them saying that this is why you want to take a break, or you just break up and you figure it out. And maybe later down the road, you guys will end up together again, but I wouldn't expect that to be the outcome, because I've been on many breaks in my life with multiple of my past partners, and it never works out. And it's like, it was on their end and it was on my end. Like, I would ask for breaks too, but I never, like, there was always some type of intention behind it. Like, I was just not happy in my relationships, and I wasn't fully ready to break up with them. So I was like, okay, let me see if I can do it, like, if I can live without you, which is such an unhealthy mindset to have. But I was young at the time, and I just, like, thought that I couldn't live without any of my partners. Like, every time I was with someone, I always thought, oh, if we break up, like, it's going to be the end of me. And it never was the end of me. It felt like the end of me, but it never was. And it was for the best every single time. But yeah, every single time, like, I don't know. I had such an unhealthy mindset with relationships, and also just, like, men in general. And that's probably why that I, like, didn't have good relationships in the past. But I'm very thankful that I have such a healthy relationship now. Like, I'm honestly surprised that I'm in such a healthy relationship, because I never thought that I would be, or that I would ever find someone that would be such a healthy partner. And I think that if it weren't for my current partner, I think he brings out the best in me also in a relationship, and it makes it easier for me to be healthy in a relationship, because I think that he could date anyone and he would be in a relationship, or in a healthy relationship, unless the other person was, like, extremely toxic as a person. But I think that he could probably have a healthy relationship with many people, whereas I think maybe now that I'm older I could, but in the past it was, like, impossible for me to have a healthy relationship, because of just the way that, like, my mindset around relationships and the people that I was picking to be in relationships with as well just were not good matches. Relevant comments, someone said, you need proof, or either go through her phone because words are not helping. OOP said, we have a general open phone policy. I never did a search through her phone, but I never saw anything suspect from the time of the break to now. What? So you did? I've never did. So you did, or you didn't. The way that they wrote that seems like they didn't, but I'm assuming they did. I was prepared to call out the friend for being jealous, but after reading it all, I think she's telling the truth. I think your fiancée is trickling out the truth to you. She's only telling you what she thinks you will forgive. She's lied and then realized she had to tell you a little bit. She's been lying since you got back together. Contact the other women that went on the trip and ask them as well. Check her phone for the messages between the group at that time. Get tested. OOP said, I'm considering reaching out to the other women. I don't know how open they'll be about it. I get along with them, but they're more of my fiance's friends, and they've largely stayed out of the falling out. Yeah, as they should. Okay, we're going to read the last update. This is June 6th. I love when it's, like, super recent stories, because I'm like, oh, they're still going through this. I don't know why I love that. I think it's just because, like, I don't know why. That kind of sounds bad. Thank you to everyone who reached out. It helped give me a much needed perspective. I wanted to give an update. I wanted a fuller picture before making a decision on anything with my fiance. I knew her friends / bridesmaids would be a lost cause. I get along with them, but they're more of my fiance's friends, and their group runs deep. They weren't going to talk at the expense of my fiance. I asked Joss for more info for evidence to her claims about my fiance hooking up with someone on their girls' trip. She said my fiance avoided talking about that particular trip, especially over text. Most of their arguments were in person, but she showed me texts from shortly after the trip. where my fiance confirmed hooking up with the guy. She texted how it's in her rear view mirror and she doesn't need a lecture about the past. She's focusing on the future. I knew the possibility, and my fiance already confessed to seeing other guys during our break, but I don't know. Seeing those texts made it real in a way that it wasn't before. In the text, she expressed regret, but it didn't make me feel better. I confronted my fiance, and I knew immediately by the look on her face. She came clean on everything. She thought Joss deleted the texts. Around the break, we were having serious talks about marriage. She started worrying she was missing out on stuff her single friends were engaging in. During the break, she sought validation from other guys and fooled around with that guy on the girls' trip. In her own words, she had a temporary high when he chased her, but felt worse about herself post-hookup. She claims the break showed her what was important and that she wasn't missing out on anything. She was reassured we were right for each other. I hardly said anything to her. I mostly just listened. I was too numb for anything else. She kept asking me to say something, but what was there for me to say? I felt her actions spoke enough for the both of us. She kept apologizing for stepping out, and when I asked her why she wasn't upfront with me, she said she didn't want to lose me over her biggest mistake. Her position that Joss isn't being noble hasn't changed. I told her Joss's motive doesn't matter. The truth is the truth. She asked if I could find it in myself to move past this. She said she loves me and she's fully committed. I couldn't tell her what she wanted. I said it was best the wedding be put off and I needed space to sort my feelings. She was against postponing and proclaimed this didn't have to define us, and she's still the same woman I wanted to marry. She asked me to not give up on us, but the same way her mind was made about the break, my mind was made on postponing. It wasn't a choice. It wasn't so much a fight, more putting everything out there. She cried a lot, and she rarely ever cries. It felt wrong to leave her crying. My first instinct was to comfort her, but I was too broken to fake it. I've been hurt before, but she hurt me in a way that only she could. I know postponing the wedding is for the best. The reason why I didn't call it off entirely is because I'm way too much in my emotions right now. Hurt, anger, sadness, and somehow numbness. At all possible, I try to avoid making decisions lost in emotions. I need to clear my head. I was so sure of my course and our relationship. My fiancé was my partner in every sense. She was who I wanted to make a life with. Sometimes she'd act so superior about our relationship compared to those of her friends. I feel so stupid. She says she's still the same person that I love. But the fact is, she had a secret life that I knew nothing about. I'm trying my best to understand that, but I'm at a complete loss. I'm not sure if I can move past this. All the guests have been informed of the postponement. Some questioned why, but I've been vague. I'm just too embarrassed. I feel bad for the guests, too. Some with limited means already booked flights and hotels and took time off for work for our wedding. That's how far we were in this home stretch. In some ways, it doesn't feel like my life. We were just together, wedding planning and discussing the honeymoon. The honeymoon was a surprise destination for her, someplace she's always wanted to visit. Now we're here. I don't know where to go or what the future holds. Thanks to everyone again for the support. It means a lot. I would say I think the best case scenario in this situation is just to break up. Like, I don't really see a point in trying to make something work when you're not married and you're about to get married. Like, I don't know. I feel like if this is what she's doing in your relationship, even though you guys were on a break, there was obvious boundaries that were set. Like, you guys spoke about boundaries purposely so that you would feel comfortable with taking a break in the first place, and then she went and broke those boundaries, which is just as bad as cheating in an actual relationship. And technically you guys still were in a relationship. That's why I think breaks are so stupid, because I think that it gives the other person like a sense of, oh, well, we're not technically together, so it's okay if I do this. And honestly, like, I don't know, it's really sad, but I just think that the best case scenario would be just to end, like, just call off the wedding. I think move on with your life and try to move past this situation. It's going to be really hard and it's going to be sad, but you don't want to be with someone like this. You don't want to be with someone that's like with you, but also wondering what she's missing. And that's why I'm glad that like I had so many experiences growing up that I'll never think that I'm missing out on anything. And that's why I feel like it's so important for people to experience things. For most people, I think like 90% of the population should try as hard and as best as they can to experience everything they possibly can, that like get so much stuff out of your system in your young age, because I think that it just makes you so much more ready for a relationship in the future. And I think that if I hadn't done a lot of things that I did in my past, I would still be questioning like, I think I would be like this girl. Like I'd be like, am I missing out on stuff? Because I don't know. Like, I think in my past relationship, even I was questioning, like, am I missing out on stuff? Which I definitely was missing out on stuff. Like, I was missing out on a good partner. I don't know. I just think I'm glad that I had the experiences that I did. And it's not even like I was that crazy. Like, I wasn't as crazy as a person could be, but I definitely was pretty crazy. And I started really young. And I'm not condoning this behavior in any which way, but the first time I drank was when I was literally in 8th grade. I was probably, 12? You're like 12 in 8th grade. But that's because I had all, like, I mean, obviously you guys know both of my siblings are way older than me. My brother's like 5 or 6 years older than me. I don't even know at this point. And my sister's 12 years older than me. So, like, I always felt like more connected to older people for, like, friends. So I always had friends in my grade, but I also had a lot of friends in older grades, which meant like when I was in 8th grade, I had a friend group that was a sophomore in high school, and that was like normal for them to be drinking. So then I started drinking, and the first time I ever got drunk was with those people. And it was just like, I don't know what the hell. Why was I getting drunk at the age of 12 years old? But whatever. And that, like, everyone, obviously most people in my school didn't start drinking and partying until like sophomore year. So I was like the bad kid in our grade, where like people would be like, oh my God, you drink. But like a few people, there were other people in my grade too, like freshman year, that started partying a little bit earlier. But yeah, I would not recommend drinking that early. That is just nuts. I would not condone that behavior. And I would, if I could go back and tell myself, I'd be like, girl, just wait. Like, just give it a little bit. But just having older siblings and being surrounded by older people, I wanted to grow up so badly at that age. And when I was younger, and even when I was younger, like, I always was like, oh, what am I going to be like when I'm older? What am I going to look like when I'm older? Like, I always wanted to be older. And I think that's a common experience within, like, children and kids. But I think that, like, having older siblings just heightened, I don't know, whatever the word is. All right. OOP responds to a long comment on if his fiance's friends from their girls' trip are the same group of people she hangs out with as of today. OOP said, yeah, it's the same group of women, same group from college. They were aware of what she was up to during the break. Wow, I'm floored that fiancé still tried to blame this on her maid of honor instead of taking accountability of her own actions. You're right, she's not the same woman you were in love with. I hope you find peace. OOP said she doesn't seem to want to accept that this has nothing to do with Joss. Thank you, I appreciate it. When in relation to your engagement did the girls' trip happen? How long since the girls' trip and the break? Our break and the girls' trip was around a couple of years ago. Well, you were on a break from your relationship and you expected her not to go out with anybody. I think she dodged a bullet with you, since you say one thing but expect another. What? They made boundaries, though. OB said, I expected her to follow the mutual boundaries set for the said break, not lie, cheat, cover up, make me feel like I was overthinking and blaming everyone else she could. I agree with that. Like, I think that if you would have just been like, we're on a break with no stipulations, that would be a different situation. Obviously, you should expect that, like, you know, she's probably going to step out. And that's just expected on a break. But if you're setting specific boundaries, then you would expect your partner to be following those boundaries. That's the end of that story time. I wanted to talk to you guys actually about this weekend, because I actually went to the protest on Saturday, the No Kings protest, and I didn't realize how large that protest was going to be. I mean, I've gone to protests before. I've been wanting to go to a protest recently. The last protest I went to was in 2020 during the Black Lives Matter like when George Floyd passed away, and that was like a huge, you know, thing. I went to probably like 5 to 10 protests. I don't know. And it was also COVID. So we obviously were all wearing our masks, but every single day I went to these protests for like a week straight. And it was a really cool experience to see everyone just get together and fight for something. And I realized in that moment like how passionate I was about just like fighting for what's right and fighting for people's rights. And also, I mean, at the time I was like largely affected by what was going on. Like I mean, not me personally, but I was really upset about that whole situation that went on. And ever since the past few months or whatever, since the election, I had been feeling like I really want to do something about it. And like I just felt like kind of hopeless and like, what can I do? What is there even to do? I'm just like one person and I don't know how I can make an impact. But so I was really happy to find out about that protest. Me and Jack actually went, he was golfing that day, but we went to, because it was downtown, so it was like 20 minutes away. And we went to breakfast that morning. We got like bagels and coffee, and then he dropped me off at the protest, and there was so many people. It was honestly beautiful. Like I was literally trying so hard not to cry because I was like, this is amazing. Like I love seeing everyone together and just seeing how many people were there. And so I got dropped off at like 10 a.m. I think the meeting was at like 9 a.m. and then we were going on the march at 10. So I got there at like 9:55ish and we started marching at 10. And mind you, I live in South Florida. So I live very close to Mar-a-Lago, which is Trump's house here. And so we were about 2 miles away from the Mar-a-Lago, and that's where we were marching to. But there was, oh my God. Okay, first of all, there was probably 1,000, over 1,000, 2,000, I don't know, people in this march. And so there was a lot of cops. There was like 20 cop cars, like the patrol cars, not even like you know what I'm talking about? Like the patrol cars. I think they're riot police. They were called. There was so many cops all lining down the street so that like we couldn't get too close to Mar-a-Lago. Like they didn't let us pass a certain point. We could only go across the bridge and then we had to like turn back around. But we were going across the bridge and there was all those cops lined up, and like we weren't allowed to be in the street because Ron DeSantis, our governor, said that if we went in the street, then like people could hit us with their cars, which is so fucking crazy. And also the sheriff of Broward County, I think it was Broward County, went on television and said, if you come at us or something, we will kill you. I can't remember exactly what he said in the video, but it was crazy because he's like, we will kill you. I was like, whoa, what's going on? That's crazy. So yeah, we got to the end of the bridge. We kind of like, there was also a caravan, so we stayed there for like 10 to 15 minutes, and there were multiple, like 4 to 5 boats, like police boats in the water, and then obviously all those police cars, and then there was a helicopter over, and it was insane. I was like, whoa. I thought the BLM protests were big, and like this protest was crazy, and I've never seen that much police force put out on a protest before. It was crazy, but it was very cool to see and to be with everyone. And I met a lot of nice people that day. And then I also met this guy named Dave. He was probably like, I don't know, he's probably 70. He had a big sign that said, "Hey Trump, you're a loser." And I just thought that was so funny. He was so cute. And we were talking for a little bit, and he was telling me like his story. And it's so cool, like always to hear people's stories. Like he had 2 sons, and one of them went to FSU in the 90s, and my boyfriend went to FSU, not in the 90s, but he graduated a few years ago. So he was telling me about his son that went to FSU, and he only went there for a year because he got into drugs really badly and became a drug addict. And then he had to go to rehab, and he ended up getting his degree. And then he was clean for a little bit, and he ended up actually getting into the master's program at Columbia, which I thought was amazing. He has 2 sons, and they both were addicted to drugs, but his one son has been clean for 16 years. The other son that got into Columbia unfortunately passed away from a drug overdose 8 years ago. And I was just like, this, it's just so interesting and also just so sad to like hear other people's stories. And then it makes you really think, like, every person has their own story. Obviously, that, like, everyone has their own lives, but sometimes you can kind of forget that people have their own stories, and that is maybe why they act the way that they do or why they think the way that they do. So usually, like, when I meet people and I get to talking with them and they tell me, like, their personal stories, I always find that very, like, eye-opening in a way. But I loved him. He was so nice. He had this, like, towel that I forget what I think they're called chili pads, but we used them for diving in high school. And he had one and he had put water on it or whatever. It's supposed to like keep you cool for like hours. And he gave it to me before he left. And I was like, oh, I love you. Thanks. We took a picture. I'll put it in. I'll put it in if I remember. I'll put it into the podcast, our picture that we took. But yeah. And then, so we marched probably until about 11:30. And then we protested on the street till like 12, and then we all went downtown to the rally, which was like 3 hours of people back to back speaking about stuff, and that was also nice. I just sat there. I was kind of tired by this point, so I just sat there. I was like, I went to get a coffee in the middle of it, and then I came back. But also one thing that was very interesting was I had to take a lift from the protest to the rally, and my Lyft driver he's not my Lyft driver anymore, but he was my Lyft driver. I forget his name. I wish I could remember. I could probably look at my Lyft app, but he is an immigrant from Cuba. He moved here a year ago, and we were talking in our drive, and it was just obviously like we were at the protest, and then I get in this car, and it's very common, obviously, Spanish speaking Lyft and Uber drivers down here. And then, yeah, so we talked for a little bit, and he was telling me his story about how he lost his job because of Trump recently. They've let him go. They had to let him go because of the laws that Trump put into place. I don't really remember exactly what he was saying, but I just thought that was very relevant, obviously. And I felt really bad. He was like, yeah, I've only been here for a year. I just lost my job. And he was working early on a Saturday. And he was so nice. He was such a nice fella. And I was just like, it's too bad. It's really too bad. But I wish him all the best. I hope that he figures that out. Like, he was such a kind guy. And yeah. But there was amazing protests all over the world, all over the globe. And I thought that was so awesome. And I am just so grateful to have been a part of that. So I encourage you to go out to protests if there are any near you. It's a really, really cool experience. And obviously, you're there for a reason, but it's also just very like touching to see everyone come together and everyone fighting for the same thing. Especially in Florida, where it's like a very red state. And I always feel like I don't belong here because I don't agree with most of the people that live here. So it was very refreshing to be around people in my state that have the same views as me, and also to see how many people have the same views as me. And there was also a lot of funny signs, which was like the best part of looking at all the signs. And I just thought that it was really a good experience. So I thought that I should tell you guys about that. I was so tired after that, though. I got home at like 3, and then I just kind of sat in my bed or on the couch. I don't even know. And then I got Chili's again. I had Chili's 2 times this weekend. Oops. But anyways, that's the end of that episode. I just wanted to update you guys on that. And yeah, I love you. And I hope that you enjoyed this episode. Please let me know what you thought about the stories. And let me know what you're up to. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know how you're feeling. Let's chat. I love you guys. And I'll talk to you in the next episode. Bye. My merch is out. Yeah, but this is it. And this comes in pink, black, and white. If you want to get a little cute piece of merch, go grab one.
Link is in the description to purchase.
Love you guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.